Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. MashaAllah. How is everyone doing? Ramadan Mubarak. It is still Ramadan, by the way. We are not yet in Eid. We still have at least, mashallah, another day and a half of Ramadan left, mashallah. So we should not be too hasty to forget that we are still in this blessed month. And Ramadan is 29 or 30 days. Ramadan is not 27 days. Ramadan did not stop with Laylatul Qadr, with the 27th night of Ramadan, if it was Laylatul Qadr, alhamdulillah. So assalamu alaikum to everyone. So as we start, is everyone feeling okay? Everyone's all right? Just you can write in the chat how you're feeling. You know, how are you feeling so far with the month? And if you don't mind, write the city that you're in. Chat, inshallah. I just want to get a sense. This is Jumu'ah, and even though we're not meeting in person, it's a really good time again just to, have a community feeling. And I would even say, if you feel comfortable, and if you're dressed modestly, you're more than welcome to share your video. You're welcome to use your video online. That's not a problem. If you're someone, again, who gets distracted by other people's videos, you can just put the what's called the speaker view, where you'll only see the speaker. You only see myself. But I really want us to have this sense of community. And Jumu'ah, Friday, is a time of community. And alhamdulillah. So again, you're welcome. I see Bordentown, Shafak in Bordentown, Amani in Villanova, Pennsylvania. Ahmed is in New York, feeling the very blessed power of Ramadan. Excellent. People feeling good. Amir in Sheikh, New Jersey. Shaik, I think, is that Shaik? I didn't know I think I've heard of Shaik. It looks like Sheikh. Interesting name. MashaAllah. Someone, MCGP Masjid, West Windsor. I'm sure that's one of my amazing board members. South Brunswick, Robbinsville. MashaAllah. Naila, Robbinsville, New Jersey. Hanan, South Brunswick. Said Zaidi, MashaAllah. West Windsor. Sister Karen, Queen Noor, Willingboro. Excellent. Alhamdulillah. Zaid, East Windsor, wonderful. Yusuf Ilasser, I hope I'm saying your last name correctly. Albany, New York, alhamdulillah. Fatu, Bordentown, mashallah. Turia, feeling inspired. I've been watching Ummah Ramadan. Also, mashallah, I feel like the Ummah's in good shape. Yeah, I think Ummah Ramadan, is that with Sheikh Hamza Abdul Malik and Imam Siraj Wahaj and Ustada Sheikh Aisha Prime? Turia. I think I saw a flyer for that. MashaAllah. Danielle Ansari, Mount Laurel, Amir Muhammad, West Windsor, Maria Mania.
We're really get started. Yeah.
No, he's just checking in, seeing where everybody's coming from.
Yeah. Inshallah. Cranberry, Shahbaz, Adam, Suleiman, Hamilton, Zach.
All over New Jersey, Albany, New York.
West Windsor. Somerset, Abdullah Aziz, Navigator 993, Naveed, New Brunswick. Is that Naveed Said? I think. Sajid, please mute yourselves. That's not a city, Sajid. You didn't tell us where you're from, Sheikh. Okay, I'm muting everyone. And let's see, Sajid. Okay, here we go. Yes, I'm doing good. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good, mashallah. Raza Zia, West Windsor, in the house. Iftikhar, wa alaikum salam. You didn't tell us how you're feeling, Iftikhar, or where you're from, where you live. Adnan, Monroe, Suhail, East Windsor, NB, Freehold, New Jersey. Mashallah, Allah bless you. I'm blessed to be with you. I'm blessed that you're with us Sister Sada Freehold, mashallah. Azra, Ahsan Khan, Allentown, New Jersey. Nice. Adeola, that's Sister Adeola, Plainsboro, Iftikhar, Cranberry. There you go. Salam, Sister Sadaf, yes. And then Asula Juma Mubarak in Georgia. Wow, amazing. Georgia. Allahu Akbar. How are things in Georgia? Are you in Atlanta or Macon or? Yeah, what's it? Decatur. Mashallah. I used to live in Decatur. Decatur where it's greater. That's what they say. Decatur where it's greater. All right. And we're gonna wrap up here. I'm about to get started with the message. Omar Ramadan, Group of Massagiers is doing virtual talks with us stays every night. Mashallah, great. Yeah, I saw the flyer, looked really good. East Windsor, Zaid, Mustafa, Asif, Hamilton, AM, Seattle, Allahu Akbar, Seattle, what are you doing? Wow, it's not even Jumu'ah in Seattle. Maisha, we're very honored to have you all the way from Seattle, Washington. And mashallah, Juma Mubarak again, Tud Vida Mubarak to all the brothers and sisters, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, may Allah reward all of you. Okay, great. Excellent, alhamdulillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi salam. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Thank you, Sister Karen, for those blessed words. Alhamdulillah. May Allah Ta'ala help us to be students of each other, and may Allah always help us to increase in knowledge and good character and in closeness to Allah and to His prophets and messengers, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So today, brothers and sisters, inshallah, since we are in the last few days of Ramadan, we're going to be talking about, how to spend these last few days. I got a text from one of you, I hope she is on, asking me for advice on how to spend these last few days, and Eid al-Fitr as well, and when to do Eid al-Fitr and how to do Eid al-Fitr, and so I'm going to share that with you. And if there's any logistical points, particularly regarding Eid, that I miss, then we have at least a couple. I saw a couple of my board members that are on the chat here, that are joining us, mashallah. So many people from all over the country, yes. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Yes, and Sajid is reminding us, a very important reminder, support this masjid. We really need your support. And many of you who've been following us, you know that we are way behind our fundraising goals for this year. And every little bit helps. No amount, no donation is too small. And I feel pretty confident that most of you, if not all of you, could donate $1, right? Maybe even $10, maybe, right? And it wouldn't hurt you, right? And so, whatever you can give, mashallah, whatever you can give, just go to our website, themuslimcenter.org. If it's $1, $10, $20, if you can give 100, if you can give 1,000 or more, we really appreciate it. We still have expenses, operational expenses, and secondly, the fitra, zakat al-fitr, fitrana, it's also called, is due, and it must be paid for you to get the reward of it being zakat al-fitr or sadaqat al-fitr before you pray Eid, Salatul Eid on Sunday. And as you will hear me say today, I'm encouraging you, many of you, to pray in your homes, right? Which is acceptable according to all the madhabs, even according to the Hanafi madhab. One of our local muftis was explaining that, Mufti Suleiman Yusufi at the Islamic Center of Mercer County, that even in the Hanafi madhab, as some people may not be aware, it's even, there is an opinion that it is acceptable and rewarded to pray Eid at home. And so we're encouraging everyone to pray with your families early in the morning, inshallah ta'ala, before the Eid message. And you need to have given your zakat al-fitr before you pray. And the latest that it can be delayed is before dhuhr, right? So dhuhr comes in around 12:55 now, right? At least here in Central Jersey, around 12:55-ish. And so you need to do your Eid prayer at the minimum, if you were to delay it, before, let's say 12:45, right? Before 12:45. And your zakat al-fitr must be given before that. And our masjid, mashallah, we distribute zakat al-fitr to those who are in need. But in order for us to distribute that and get it to those who need it, we have to get it before Sunday, right? Yes. And so if you have not given your zakat al-fitr yet, do not delay. Give it today, right? Do not delay. Give it today, brothers and sisters. So with that being said, there's a request for me to tell people to close all the videos, but again, I really, if you're comfortable having your video open, actually I because this is Friday, I actually want to see people. I want us to have a community feeling. So please forgive me. I apologize if it's distracting, but I'm encouraging people to have their videos open if they choose, if they're dressed modestly and whatnot. And if there is a here, I'll do this. So this is called speaker view, all right? And so that way, those of you who may get distracted by other people's videos, you'll just have to endure looking at me only for the next few minutes, inshallah ta'ala. So let's talk about the end of Ramadan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. Wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا وحبيبنا محمد عبده ورسوله وصفيه وخليله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار نعوذ بالله من النار نعوذ بالله من النار نعوذ بالله من النار. Dear brothers, we begin always praising, and dear brothers and sisters, boys and girls, children, we always begin declaring our praise and our thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm sorry, I hear some background noise. Let me just close the door. We thank Allah, we praise Allah for every blessing, for the blessing of existing, for the blessing of being a human being, for the blessing of being a Muslim, for the blessing of being a Muslim chosen by God to be a part of this blessed community of Prophet Muhammad, the last of the prophets. We thank Allah for choosing us not only to be a member of this blessed faith community, this international, multicultural community of hearts and souls, this conference of hearts and souls, but also we thank Allah for choosing us to be among those who are in the last time, the end of time, which is a blessing. Why is it a blessing to be among those community of the Prophet Muhammad, God bless him and grant him peace, that are living in the end times, in prophetic times, times of prophecy? Anyone who's been around the last 4 months knows that we're living in a time of prophecy. We're living in a time of tremendous transition. What our scholars say, tahawulat. We're living in a time of transition. The world is in a time of transition right now. And we pray that Allah Ta'ala gives us the courage and the faith to patiently persevere. Why is it a blessing? It's a blessing because Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in a sound narration that no one knows which part of his ummah, which part of his nation, his followers, are the most beneficial to humanity. That he began this narration saying, my ummah is like a rain, a downpour of rain. And no one knows which part of that rain is the most beneficial, its beginning or its end, right? Now, this does not mean that we or anyone coming after us has the same status and rank of the companions of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But what it does mean is that in our value to the planet, our value to humanity, and the worth that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have an opportunity, a great opportunity, right, to have a tremendous benefit on this entire creation. So it's a great benefit. And then I quoted the ayat that Allah says, exalted is He, O you who have believed, revere God as He should be revered, and don't die. Don't die unless you are in a state of submission. And the way to die in a state of surrender to God, of acceptance of God, of Islam, is to live in acceptance of God, to live in surrender, loving, willing surrender to God. O humanity, revere your nurturing master, your creator, your sustainer, who created you from a single soul, and from it created its mate, and from the two of them created multitudes of men and women. Revere your Lord, through whom you ask of your mutual rights, and safeguard the wombs that bore you. Safeguard your ties, your kinship ties to the womb. Indeed, God sees all that you do. God is ever watchful, ever aware of what you do. O you who have believed, revere God and speak truthfully at all times. Always tell the truth. Always tell the truth. If you do this, God says in the Quran, He will forgive you all of your wrongs, forgive you your wrongs, and will rectify your deeds. Many times we do things And, you know, our actions may not be totally done out of sincere longing and sincere seeking of God's reward. And so we ask God to rectify our deeds. Allah can do that for you and me. He can rectify our deeds with all of our distractions and, you know, all of our ambitions and ulterior motives, iltifats ila al-khalq, like our giving attention to creatures. And whoever obeys God and his messenger has attained the greatest success. So brothers and sisters, I want to reiterate those of you who joined us yesterday with Imam Zaid Shakir, may Allah preserve him, who was with us yesterday, who gave a really powerful and moving and emotional lecture about the last 10 days of Ramadan. I really want to reiterate what he said last night, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have given us a whole month of mercy, a whole month of grace, a whole month of forgiveness, a whole month of liberation and salvation from the fire of the ego and from the fire of hell. And the month does not end until the sighting of the crescent moon of the next month of Shawwal, which we're expected to see Saturday evening, right? Saturday evening at sunset. And I encourage you all to go outside, you know, about 20 minutes before sunset. And after you pray Maghrib, go outside, you know, and kind of look at the west. You have to look at the western sky near the horizon and see if you can see the crescent moon. It should be very easy to see according to the visibility curves on stargazing astronomical websites like crescentwatch.com, Hilal Committee, and moonsighting.com. And the practice of looking for the moon is from the practice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. You know, he or his companions would look for the moon, and there were certain really beautiful prayers he would say when the moon was sighted that we should also read and learn. And it's not hard. It's actually a video. If you Google my name and you Google, I think, tips for moon sighting, there's a YouTube video where I give a tutorial on how to look for the moon. You don't have to be an expert. I remember when I was a young Muslim, people used to tell me, oh, you had to be trained by Bedouins and go to the mountains to sight the moon. No, it's not true. You can sight the moon right from your deck or your front porch or your driveway, you know, or your apartment building, as long as you can see the western sky unobstructed by trees and by tall buildings. And so the month is 29 or 30 days. It's not 27 days. A lot of Muslims, after the 27th night, which many people believe to be the night of power, the night of glory, a lot of people kind of, you know, they check out of Ramadan. They check out, you know, they start focusing on Eid. You know, they start, you know, preparing, you know, they start shopping and, you know, making sure all the gifts are wrapped, which it's important to wrap gifts, right? Me and my wife, we bought gifts, and what we like to do is buy our Eid gifts as early as possible, sometimes before Ramadan starts for the children, so that we can focus on God during Ramadan. And so this, to my dear sister, my beloved sister who sent me that text, I can see her in her video. It's important to take advantage of this next day and a half. Continue to read as much Quran as you can. Continue to give as much charity as you can. Charity to those you know and those you don't know, of course. keeping either online or using physical social distancing when you share that. Do as much dhikr, much invocation of God, calling on the beautiful names of God, the 99 names of God, right? Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Malik, Ya Quddus, Ya Salam, calling on those names. This is a time to increase in your prayers, right? If you have time and energy, make as much prayer as you can. Pray the Salatul Tasbih, the prayer of transcendence, of declaring God's perfection. Pray Salatul Shukr, the prayer of gratitude. Pray Salatul Tawbah, the prayer of repentance. Pray Salatul Hajjah, the prayer of need. And if you're not familiar with all these prayers, they're very easy, very simple to do. You're just offering 2 cycles of prayer, right? Like 2 rak'ah, with the intention of repentance or the intention of gratitude. And we have so much to be grateful for. Or with the intention of bringing a great need to God, Salatul Hajjah. Or pray Salatul Istikhara. Maybe there's a decision that you have to make regarding some aspect of your life, right? So do all of these prayers, or just pray as an act of worship, humble worship to God. This is a time for meditation, for mindfulness, for reflection. And again, if you're not sure how to do Islamic meditation, there's a video that I did with Allah's grace that's on YouTube. Just type in Islamic meditation, theory and practice, with my name, and you'll come up to the video. There are 5 videos. I don't recommend you watch all 5 of them. It's Ramadan. You shouldn't be spending your time, that much time watching videos. But if you watch the first one, that should be enough to help you get started. And so this is what we should be doing these days. Tonight is the 30th night, right, of Ramadan, and tomorrow is a Saturday. So if you haven't had the experience of staying up all night, any of these days of Ramadan, these nights of Ramadan, this is your last chance. This may be your very last chance. And who knows if we will ever have another Ramadan? Who knows? Next year is not promised to us. We pray that Allah returns Ramadan to us and returns us to this meeting with Ramadan again and again and again, year after year after year after year after year. But there's no guarantee. And so stay up all night tonight. It's a weekend. Most of you won't be working. Stay up all night. Don't go to sleep. That's how Prophet Muhammad, God bless his beautiful soul and grant him peace, that is how he spent the last 10 nights of Ramadan, right? Which, as Imam Zayd Shakir, may Allah preserve him, said yesterday, actually begins from the 19th night of Ramadan, right? Because you don't know if the month is going to be 29 or 30 days, right? It's a really important point. Most of us who start i'tikaf and whatnot, we start on the 20th, right? Some people don't even start observing the last 10 days to the 21st, right? Because they're focusing on the odd nights, but really you don't know. So it's, you should start actually observing that on the 19th of Ramadan so that you observe the last 10 days. You give those completely to God, right? That is our zakat, the zakat for the year. The zakat on our time for the year is giving those 10 days completely to God, stopping everything else if you're able, right? But if you have loved ones to care for at home, if you have business or a job that you just cannot get away from for usually 6 or 7 days, with the weekends, all you have to do is take off 6 or 7 days of vacation time. Then you do what you can. You spend the nights or spend the weekends at least, in complete devotion to God. And if you do that, there's a saying, a hadith from Prophet Muhammad, God bless him and grant him peace, that whoever does that, whoever practices tabattul, completely devoting themselves to God, God will give them blessing in their time in their finances, in all of their affairs, right? Because Allah is Ash-Shakur. The Creator is the one who is absolutely, completely appreciative, and who shows appreciation. And he shows that appreciation through the blessing and through the rewards and the gifts that he gives us for such acts. So the only other thing I would add to that is supplication. Pray, pray, offer prayers for yourself, for your family, for your community, for your neighbors, for your relatives, regardless of their religion, right? Pray for everyone. Pray for those who are starving right now. Pray for our brothers and sisters here in the United States, Native Americans who have been just, disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. Some of the worst cases and the worst mortality rates for the COVID-19 pandemic are in the Native American community. Also, they're in the African American community. Pray for the African American community. Pray for the Latino community and those that are undocumented. Pray for them. They're going through tremendous insecurity right now. Pray for those that are suffering with COVID-19. Pray for those who are suffering with other diseases. Pray for those who are poor, and ask God to make you a means for alleviating that suffering, either with your time or with your money or with your knowledge, with your skills. Pray for the heroes, the healthcare professionals and the mental health care professionals, the social workers, the case workers who are just have been on the front lines without a break, some of them without a break for the last 4 months, right? I have a friend, she's a nurse, mashallah, 12-hour days, 12-hour days, and you're just surrounded by death. You're surrounded by each 10 minutes, there's a code. There's a code orange or code red, right? It's completely taking people to the very brink of what they're able, what they can handle physically and mentally and emotionally, right? It's like being a firefighter running into the World Trade Centers, like every day for the past 4 months, right? So pray for them. Pray for our leaders. Pray for our leaders. And I mean that. I'm not just talking about Muslim community leaders. I'm talking about the politicians and the governors and the mayors and even Donald Trump, right? Pray for them. Ask Allah to guide them. Ask Allah to give them wisdom. Ask Allah to give them courage to make the right decisions. Ask Allah to put mercy and light into their hearts. Ask Allah Ta'ala to bring about rectification through them, right? And ask Allah Ta'ala, to not put over us anyone who doesn't have the fear of God in their hearts. Ameen. And so these are the things you should be doing. The last thing I want to say about this particular topic before we switch gears and close is the night of Eid al-Fitr, right? There's a hadith that has a Hasan chain, if I'm not mistaken, which means it's a good chain of narration. Not sahih, not authentic, but it's still good. That the night of Eid al-Fitr, the evening before Eid al-Fitr, which for us will be Saturday night, is a night when prayers are not rejected. So that's an indication that it's a blessed night. And even if the hadith may have a chain that's Hasan or Da'if or weak, we know from the practice of a number of companions, among them Ali ibn Abi Talib, may God be pleased with him, and others, that their practice was to spend the nights before Eid in worship. And so they would treat the night before Eid just like the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Yeah. Right. Now that might seem like, wow, that's a lot, Imam, because we have Eid the next day. And if I stay up all night, I'll probably miss Eid. Yes, I understand. So I'm not telling you to stay up all night, but, spend an hour, spend 2 hours maybe in the worship, in prayer, in meditation, reflecting on God's signs, and it's a time, again, that's very blessed, very sacred. A lot of people are oblivious to the sanctity of the evening before Eid al-Fitr and the evening before Eid al-Adha. We spend it, in bazaars usually, right? Or shopping online, or, Chandrat, right? The Indo-Pakistani community, the Bangladeshi community has this tradition of Chandrat, which is the festival of the moon, where the night before Eid, you go and you buy clothes and you get your henna art done, your Mendi art done on your body, and and you're making sweets and things like that, and which is a great tradition. And I'm not discouraging that at all. And if you can have some, I don't know if they have online chandrats or if people are gathering in groups of less than 10 to do it, but don't neglect also using this special time for worship. So that's how we should spend the rest of the month, right? Don't slacken up. Keep pushing hard. Ask Allah to purify your soul. That's what this is about. For your soul to become like gold. Ask Allah Ta'ala to elevate your spiritual rank and to show you your life purpose, your true life purpose. And not your job, not your mission, not your mission at work, at your job, but your mission of service. Ask God to show you that in this month of Ramadan, and to give you the resources and the discipline and the time to complete that mission of life service, that life mission of service during your lifetime. For Eid, let's kind of change gears. So we've talked today about Zakat al-Fitr, and the Zakat al-Fitr is, again, an act of charity. It is an obligation. It's an obligation on every Muslim man and woman, every free Muslim adult. Every free Muslim adult, it's an obligation, and every child as well. But of course, children don't pay it. Their parents pay it on their behalf. So every Muslim is required to pay Sadaqat al-Fitr, even those who are poor. And this is according also to some of the great scholars of the Hanafi school. I know some of our brothers and sisters who are Hanafi may have learned that only people who have to pay zakat pay fitrah, but that's really not the case. In the entire school, the entire madhab, there are Hanafi scholars of great consequence who say that no, like the other schools teach, it's every Muslim. And this is one of the unique things about Zakat al-Fitr, brothers and sisters, that it's a charity that you give and you also may receive. And the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would give Zakat al-Fitr and they would also receive it. Now, what makes you eligible to receive Zakat al-Fitr? In the Maliki school of law that I studied, in other schools of law, if you are what's called miskin, right? Miskin, then you can receive Zakat al-Fitr. So what is a person who's miskin? A person that's miskin, technically, I'm not talking about linguistically how you may have learned it growing up in Egypt or Jordan or Morocco or Palestine. I'm not talking about what miskin means in Urdu, how you used it in Pakistan, or what it means in Bangla, right? Growing up in Bangladesh or in India. The word miskin in Islamic law refers to someone who doesn't have enough wealth to live on for a whole year. So imagine you couldn't work for a year. You couldn't run your business for a year. That your business was closed down. no work, how long could you survive on your savings? If the answer is not a year, then you're technically miskin, and therefore you can receive zakat al-fitr. Now, if the answer is, you know what, I have enough savings, I have enough, investment, dividends that are coming in where I could, I could go on for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 10 years without having to work, then you don't receive zakat. Okay, right? You're what's called wealthy. You're ghani, right? You're independently wealthy. That's true independent wealth, which is determined by how long you don't have to work, right? And so it's $10 per Muslim in your home, in your household, who depends on you. So again, that includes children. Zakat al-fitr, fitra is also due on children, but of course they're not expected to pay it. We parents pay it on their behalf. So I have a family of 8, and I would pay $80. Now, if the $10 rate is difficult for you, especially right now, in this time of financial distress, then go with the $7 rate. The $7 rate. So then it would be, for my family, it would be $56, right? 7 times 8 is 56, I think, right? And so anywhere from $56 to $80, and you need to give that, and you can pay it online on our website right now. Just click on the Zakat al-Fitr button and write a memo as well that this is for Zakat al-Fitr, so that it reaches those people who are deserving to receive it before the Eid, inshallah. Zakat al-Fitr is really important. I'm not going to go into all the details about its history, but you should know that Prophet Muhammad, God bless him and grant him peace, is reported to have said that our fasting, our good deed of fasting, is suspended between heaven and earth until you give zakat al-fitr, until you pay the charity of the fast breaking. It's so beautiful because it's as if you've gone this whole month experiencing hunger and thirst, right? And if you live in very northern climates, regions of the earth, then you may be fasting for 18 hours, 20 hours sometimes, right? And so the first act of worship you're supposed to do is what? Give, right? Give. You've been abstaining from food and drink and your carnal appetites, and now the first thing you do is what? Give. You give. Because of your empathy now, because of the empathy that you've cultivated in a very tangible, concrete way. I mean, a lot of people know, okay, yes, there are poor people in the world. There are people who are starving, dying of hunger even. But a lot of people never get to experience what it's like to go without eating for 15 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours, right? And so that's one of the wisdoms of Zakat al-Fitr. And then thirdly, so the third blessing and the benefit of giving Zakat al-Fitr is that it is an expiation and a purification for the shortcomings of your fast. How many of us really think that we fasted exactly the way Allah Ta'ala loves for us to fast? How many of us actually fasted without losing our temper once, without looking at something or listening to something or saying something that we regret we did? How many of us? How many of us believe our fast was flawless? How many of us believe that there was no room for improvement in our external fasting from food and drink and intimacy, or our internal fasting from distractions, mental distractions from God? How many of us? And so Zakat al-Fitr is a way to expiate and to rectify the imperfections of our fast, particularly the things that we said. Maybe a joke we told, or a lie we told, or backbiting we told. Inshallah. And so that's it on Zakat al-Fitr. Let's just talk a little bit about Eid. So Eid al-Fitr, the day of Eid, we are going to be commemorating on this Sunday. It's called, the reason why it's called Eid, the word Eid itself means to return, returning again and again. And this refers to the fact that Eid comes every year, right? We look forward to it every year. It's a guest every year we expect to receive. So it's a recurring holiday or festival. And there are two Eids. There's a hadith saying from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that when he came to what later became Medina, Yathrib, he found the people of Yathrib celebrating, right? They had a day of amusement and play and sports and song, and he asked them about this. And I just want to share the hadith with you right now. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said that Allah Ta'ala has given us 2 days that are a replacement for those days of Eid. Anas relates, at the time when the Messenger of God came to Medina, there were 2 days of festivity each year. He asked, "What are these 2 days?" We replied, "We used to play and enjoy ourselves on these 2 days during the days of Jahiliyyah," which means, it doesn't just mean the days of ignorance, it means the days of lawlessness, right? The days of lawlessness, the wild, wild west of Arabia. He then said, "Allah has given you 2 better days, the festival of fast breaking, Eid al-Fitr, and the festival of sacrifice, in exchange for these 2, alhamdulillah." And it's a day of festivity. There's even a really important hadith, and every hadith is important, from our mother Aisha, one of the beloved wives of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who said, "The messenger, Prophet Muhammad, came into my apartment while 2 girls were singing songs of war. He lay down on the mattress and covered his face." Now, his mattress was not like our Sealy Posturepedic or our number beds. His mattress was made out of grass and branches, and it was what we would consider very uncomfortable, but that was his mattress. And he covered his face. Then Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, came, and he was angry. He came in and he was angry with me, his daughter, and said, "The flutes of the devil near the Prophet?" Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Abu Bakr comes in, he sees these 2 girls singing, not religious songs, not sacred songs, but songs about war. These are songs that the Arabs used to sing. They were very, military. They had a very militant culture. They were killing themselves, for no good reason before the Prophet ﷺ brought peace to Arabia, right? There were blood feuds, and that went on for years and years and years. So, they would sing these songs of war as a way of entertainment. And so Abu Bakr hears this, and he is outraged, right? Outraged. And a lot of us don't associate this with Abu Bakr, for example. We associate this with Umar, but a lot of us, we don't have a full picture of Umar or Abu Bakr. There are many times when Abu Bakr was very, 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 very stern and very much outspoken against injustice and any act of that he perceived as disobedience. And there were many moments when Umar radiallahu anhu was very tender, very soft and very gentle, right? But unless you study their lives in detail, you won't know their full personality. A lot of times people associate Abu Bakr with being meek and mild and tender, and Umar with being strong and firm and stern. And they're both much more complicated than that, much deeper than that. And so what happened? So he's reprimanding his daughter, Aisha, right? The great Aisha, radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he's reprimanding these two girls that are singing. And they're singing while the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is lying down, resting, contemplating. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned toward him and said, "Leave them both alone." Brothers and sisters, do you hear that? Leave them alone. When he was paying no attention to them, I signaled to them and they left. So the Prophet ﷺ told Abu Bakr, leave them alone. Let them keep singing. Let them keep playing their instruments, the flutes, right, that they were playing. Ibn al-Hajar, he comments on this hadith with the great scholar of hadith, Ibn Hajar, that the two girls' names were Hamama and Zainab. And in some other versions of the same hadith, the girls were playing tambourines, right? You know, tambourines, the frame drum, right? And the flutes of the devil refers to the singing, and tambourines as well, as these amusements can be a means of diversion and distraction from remembrance of God. Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, thought that the Prophet, God bless him and grant him peace, was asleep. And so admonished his daughter for this intrusion. He also assumed that such amusements and singing were prohibited, as there are many Muslims, even to this day, who think that any song is prohibited. That even some Muslims who think nasheed, like, you know, sacred songs are prohibited. He assumed that such amusements and singing were prohibited. The Prophet ﷺ quickly corrected him, as was his responsibility as a prophet. If the singing, if the drumming were, and the word flutes, I just want to be careful and clarify, the word flutes does not necessarily mean, brothers and sisters, that they were playing flutes. In fact, it just means that they were playing instruments, right? It's a metaphor for instruments. It doesn't mean they were playing literal flutes. I want to be clear about that. But the drumming that we do know they were doing, based on other hadith of the same event, he corrected them and clarified the reason for the allowing of singing and the drumming is that it was a day of Eid, and it's a day of, you know, of being relaxed and joyful and celebrating. And also it's an indication that singing in general is permissible, because even if it's not Eid, right? There's some Muslims that think that singing is only permissible during weddings and war, right? Or on Eid, and that's just not the case, right? And also that certain musical instruments are permissible. There are hadith, there are narrations that prohibit certain kinds of musical instruments, but this, of course, shows that certain instruments like the frame drum, for example, are permitted. And this is a long discussion, and I hope I don't get a whole bunch of questions about music, but even if I do, please bring it on. I'll be happy to address those if you have questions about listening to music and its permissibility. The scholar Hamuda Abdullati makes this point in writing about the proper meaning of an Islamic Eid. What should Eid be, brothers and sisters? It's a day of peace and thanksgiving. It's a day of moral victory. It's a day of good harvest and remarkable achievements. And it's a day of festive remembrance. And Islamic Eid is all this and much more, because it is a day of Islam, and it is a day of God. Shawwaliullah Dehlawi, one of our greatest scholars from India, may Allah Ta'ala be pleased with him, he said, Eid is the day of rejoicing. You're not celebrating the end of Ramadan. Don't celebrate the end of Ramadan. We should be weeping that Ramadan is over, but celebrate the completion of fasting Ramadan and honoring Ramadan and receiving the rewards. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu is reported to have said that the night of Eid is called Salatul Ja'iza. I'm sorry, Laylatul Ja'iza. It's the night of getting your payment, right? You get your rewards for all the sacrifices you did in Ramadan. And it's an occasion to display the strength of the Muslims as everyone congregates for the Eid assembly. The Sadaqat al-Fitr, the obligatory charity that's due on this day, promotes this cause as well as perfecting the fast and allowing all Muslims, rich and poor, wealthy and those with financial challenges, to have the resources that they need to celebrate that day. The last thing I want to say is about the Eid prayer. We are encouraging people to pray. So you can pray the Eid prayer 35 minutes after sunrise. 35 minutes after sunrise. And I did a special class going into detail, describing how you pray the Eid prayer about 2 weekends ago. You can look at it on our YouTube channel, MCGP YouTube. But basically, it's like a normal 2-cycle prayer. So it's very similar to the prayer we do for dawn, the dawn prayer, Salatul Fajr, Salatul Subh, except it does not have, there's no adhan, you don't make the call to prayer, and there's no iqama, right? There's no second adhan, right? There's no short adhan. You just start the prayer. And if you're at home alone, you should pray it alone. If you're with your family at home or you have roommates that are Muslim, then you should pray it together. Choose someone from among you who is able to lead you, who knows at least how to recite Al-Fatiha or in at least another surah like Al-Ikhlas, Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Even if they have to read from it, like some of you may be new Muslims and you haven't memorized the words of the prayer yet, it's fine to read them. It's fine to read them from a book or on your phone. So you start the prayer with 7 takbirat. You say Allahu Akbar, 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 7 times. And you don't have to raise your hands every time. You can, but you should raise your hand. You must raise your hand the first time when you say Allahu Akbar, because that begins the prayer. The other 6, you don't have to. You can choose whether or not to raise your hand each time. I prefer to. So you start with 7 takbirat, saying God is greater, God is greater, God is greater, 7 times. And why are we saying this? We're saying this because we're thanking God, right? We're thanking God for success, for completing the fast. We're thanking God and declaring His greatness and completing the fast, that we could only have completed it with His help. We are saying God is greater than our problems. God is greater than all the problems in the world. God is greater than the pandemic. God is greater than the coronavirus, the new coronavirus. God is greater than my ego, than my self-centeredness. God is greater than my sins, right? Maybe you've done things that you really, really regret. God is greater. God is greater than that. God can forgive you. Just ask. Just ask. God is greater than your enemies. God is greater. God is greater. So this is how we celebrate, glorify God. And then you recite Al-Fatiha and then another surah that should be of short or moderate length. The companions said that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would recite surahs like Surah Al-A'la or Surah Al-Ghashiyah. And sometimes he would recite Surah Al-Qamar, for example, and Surah Al-Qalam, right, that are a lot longer. So it's up to you, whatever you're able to. you don't feel pressured. You don't have to recite a long surah. Just recite whatever's easy for you from the Quran. And then you bow. And then you continue with the prayer. You rise up from your bowing, and then you prostrate on the ground twice, sitting in between, and then you stand up for the second cycle of the prayer. As you rise, you say Allahu Akbar, and then when you're standing up straight, you say 5 takbirat like this. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And again, it's your preference if you raise your hand each time. You should raise your hand the first one, and the others, it's up to you. And then you recite Al-Fatiha in another chapter of the Quran that's easy for you to recite. And then you bow and you continue with your prayers normal, with its bowing, its rising from bowing, prostration twice, and then you sit in jalsa, and you sit and you declare your witnessing, your tashahud, and you pray for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then you send salam, you ask for peace, you send peace. You say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to the angels on your right and the angels on your left, the angels that are in front of you and the angels that are behind you, to the people that are with you, right? And and when I say Assalamu alaikum at the end of the prayer, I make intention that I'm sending peace to all beings, to all of Allah's creatures in the universe, right? And so that's the Eid prayer. You don't have to give a khutbah if you're praying by yourself. A few scholars say that it's your choice, right? Especially in these circumstances. But I will be giving a message, inshallah, at 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. We will start the Eid takbirat, the well-known dhikr that we do on Eid. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamd. We'll start that at 9:45, inshallah. Then I will give a short talk, about 15 to 20-minute talk after that. And so you can make that your Eid message or your Eid khutbah, inshallah ta'ala. So again, in a nutshell, you can do the prayer sometime before 9:30 so that you can join us at 9:45 for the dhikr and for the message. There is some talk about having a united Eid for Central New Jersey, but that's not finalized, and it's really the last hour, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But if we're part of that, we will let you know. Just look at our website. You'll get a text if that's happening. Otherwise, the plan is what I just said. 9:45, log in on the MCGP Zoom link that's provided in the text for Eid, and our newsletter. Takbirat, the glorifications of Eid will start at 9:45, and my Eid address, my special holiday address for Eid will be at 10 a.m. Eastern this Sunday, God willing. And I think that's it, brothers and sisters, right? And we are looking forward to seeing you after that from 12 to 4. I think I got the times right. Any of our board members or Eid planning team members, if I got the time wrong, please make sure you put it in the chat to correct me. But from 12 to 4 p.m., we are having myself, the mayor of West Windsor, and our board members. The mayor of West Windsor, Marate, is a good friend of our community. He's from the Hindu faith, but he's a friend of our community, and he's always very gracious with giving us some of his time. He will be there to greet you and to wish you a happy Eid. I'll be there to see you. We'll be having treats and desserts and activities. Well, not activities, but treats for the children as well. Of course, observing social distancing. People will only be allowed to come in 10 cars at a time, and it's just going to be a drive-through. People, we're not going to get out and hug each other. We can't do that. But 10 cars at a time. People can drive through, how you doing, 6 feet away, and we get to see each other. We haven't seen each other in about 2 months, some of us. So it'll be a great time to, just get out of the house and see the mosque. You won't be able to go inside the mosque. The mosque will be locked. So you won't be able to pray inside the mosque, but you will be able to see the mosque from the outside. There will be law enforcement officials there to help us with security and making sure that everything we do is acceptable to the guidelines of the state of New Jersey for the stay-at-home order. And make it a day, Eid, what do you do on Eid? You see your friends, you call your family members, your relatives, do something special for your children. My wife and I, we like to decorate our home. The children decorate, have balloons everywhere. I have a friend of mine, his mother, Sister Nicole in Philadelphia, he told me how she would just make every Eid special. When the children would wake up in the morning, she would have balloons. You couldn't see the ceiling. There were just balloons everywhere. Balloons everywhere, right? And banner, she would stay up all night decorating the house. And he said, because of that, Eid is special to me. And those memories, I cherish them to this day as a young man. Make Eid special for your children. Make it special for your grandchildren. Don't let it just be calling your relatives and eating. Really make it special. Get your children gifts, wrap them up, stick a ribbon on that thing, right? And really make it a time of joy and celebration. And we ask that Allah Ta'ala bless this Eid. Allah bless us, to see each other and to remember his blessings. Thank Allah for his blessings. And pray for those who are not as fortunate as us to, security and health are a great blessing. And so we should thank God for them, and then we should use the security that we have to help those who are unsafe, either physically or emotionally or financially or religiously. We should use our wealth to help those who have less wealth. We should use our knowledge to help those who have less knowledge. And we should use our influence and our power and our privilege to help those who have less power, influence, and privilege, and so on and so forth. So with that, we will switch gears to your questions, inshallah, God willing. I don't think I left anything out. and just to be clear, the way I describe the Eid prayer is just one way. If you learned how to do the Eid prayer a different way from a scholar, right, or from a knowledgeable person, an Imam, and that's what you learned, and that's absolutely fine. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he prayed Eid different ways. He'd make wudu different ways. I mean, there's common elements, but with slight variations. So there's a common form to his prayer and wudu and Eid, but he would, vary it slightly. And different companions saw different things, okay? And so that's why we have this diversity. And there's deep spiritual meaning behind each of these variations. Again, that's another topic for another time. So let's look at your comments and questions. MashaAllah. Thank you, Brother Raza, for posting the video that I did with Allah's grace, by Allah's grace, on moon sighting, the tutorial moon sighting, and the introduction to Islamic meditation, which is really important. We should all be meditating. We should all have a mindfulness practice every day, really. I don't know how anyone can get through their days and nights, especially now, without meditating. And if you are stressed out, I guarantee, I can probably guess you are not spending 20 minutes a day with some kind of mindfulness or meditative practice. And if you just would take 20 minutes, you'll notice a tremendous change in your own sense of inner peace and stillness. So start meditating if you don't, all right, inshallah. Let's see. There's a private message, wa alaikum salam, regarding praying extra prayers like salatul shukr, etc. What type of prayer could someone do looking for general direction and guidance in life? Not specific enough for istikhara per day, but looking generally for change and openings. So that would be what's called salatul haja, the prayer of a need. And so the intention that you just stated, you just make that intention. Oh Allah, I'm making this prayer, seeking guidance for change in my life and for openings, opportunities and spiritual enlightenment and whatever that intention may be. And then you pray your 2 rakats or 4 rakats or 8 rakats, however many cycles of prayer you'd like to do with that intention. Sister Mariam, she asks, any special prayers for this last Jumu'ah? There's nothing that's authentically narrated from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are traditions, that have been passed down, but yeah, I mean, nothing specific, just, make it a very blessed ending, right? Al-amal bi khawatimiha, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, actions are judged by their ending, right? Like the way that, which is great news for people like me, right? Who, maybe at the beginning of Ramadan, you weren't doing your best, right? Maybe at the beginning of your life, your adulthood, you weren't doing your best, right? So what counts is how you end the race. Life is a marathon, right? So maybe you started out way behind. Maybe you started out, you want to finish strong. So, but yeah, no special, I would just say do the good that you've been doing, do more good. Salatul tasbih, sitting salat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reading Quran. I mean, there's nothing better than reading the Quran. There's nothing better than reading Quran. And there's nothing better actually than reading Quran in the prayer, in salah. Like you can't get a better act of worship. So Terry says, wa alaikum salam. Terry Lingham, Muhammad, Atlantic City, New Jersey. MashaAllah. Feeling blessed, right? Great. Thank you for joining us, Terry. MashaAllah. Give our salams to Imam Amin Muhammad. If you're in his community, I don't know if you're part of his community, but if you know him and you're part of that community, give him our salams and our love. Sister Khadija, oh yes, and Sister Khadija, the video you asked about, the khutbah I gave it about Ahmed Arbery, the young African-American man who was brutally killed in cold blood, in broad daylight, by 2 white racists. That is up, right? So it's up. You should see it on our YouTube channel. But if you don't, just text me and I will send it to you. I'll send the link to you. Okay. Can one pay zakat al-fitr for someone else that is poor and not able to afford it themselves? Yes. Yes, you can do that. Yeah. Yeah. What even some scholars recommend, I'm not saying you have to do this, is that even it's better if you give that money to the poor person so that they can give the zakat al-fitr themselves. So again, you don't have to do that. Okay, NB. Subhanallah, PIA flight from Lahore to Karachi, just crashed right before landing. Subhanallah. 107 people died. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. To God we belong, and to God we return. Let's pray for them. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. Oh Allah, we ask that you have mercy on the souls of those who passed away in this accident, Ya Allah. We ask, oh Allah, that you forgive them, that you have mercy upon them, and that you count them from among the martyrs, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask that you illuminate their graves, that you place them in Illiyin. We ask, oh Allah, that you support them with a firm word. We ask, oh Allah, that you grant them paradise without reckoning or punishment. We ask, oh Allah, that you give comfort and solace to their loved ones who survived them. Oh Allah, give them comfort and solace and help them to have patience with your decree and to be confident in the reward, Ya Allah, that awaits beautiful patience with hardships, with trials, with tribulations, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, we ask that you bless them with direct entry into paradise through the blessing of Ramadan, Ya Allah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. That's very sad to hear. SubhanAllah. Miskeen definition. What if one lifestyle is $1 million per year versus another that is $250,000 per year? Lifestyle. So again, I'm not sure what the intent behind the question is. Are you saying that a person is making less than $1 million, but they're overspending, they're living beyond their means, right? Whereas another person is, maybe they're making $250,000 a year, or not. Maybe they're multi-millionaire, but they live like they make $250,000 a year, right? I'm not sure if that's what you're saying. None of that affects the definition, the legal definition of what a miskeen is. Again, a miskeen, and then some scholars, they apply this definition to the word fakir, you know. So these two words, the fakir and the miskeen, they have technical definitions used in Islamic law. And the miskeen is, again, generally the person who, you know, they're not completely impoverished. They have some money, right? They have some wealth, some savings, right? But they couldn't live on that for a year or more. Maybe it would just last them 11 months, maybe 10 months, maybe 5 months. Maybe they just have enough to last a month, right? The fakir, on the other hand, is someone who just has enough quotes, right? Not even money. You just have enough food and drink to survive off for one day. That's what's called a fakir. If all you have is enough provision for a day, you are called fakir, and you are absolutely deserving of zakat. And you're expected to give zakatul fitr, not pay zakatul mal, but give zakatul fitr as well, even if you're fakir, according to many scholars. In fact, some scholars say even if the fakir has to borrow the money for zakatul fitr, they should do so, right? But you know, it's, you know, borrowing is never ideal, never recommended. It's better to ask, you know, someone who does have wealth, is there any work I can do so I can make $100 this week or this weekend, right? That's always better to work for your livelihood. Now, some scholars switch around those definitions and say a fakir is the one who doesn't have enough wealth to live on for 12 months or more. And a miskeen is the one who only has enough sustenance for one day. So, you know, They're interchangeable, but according to some scholars. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. Miskeen is who doesn't have enough for a year. So if my norm is $1 million and someone else is living within an annual budget of $25,000. Yeah, so again, I want to be clear. A person who's miskeen is someone who doesn't have enough to survive on for a year. So it's not about your lifestyle. It's not about how much disposable income you have. It's how much can you survive for a year. Do you have enough water and basic food, basic shelter, and basic clothing to survive for a year? So that word I should have used. I apologize for not being clear. You need to, a miskeen is someone who doesn't have enough resources on which to survive for 12 months or more. If you have enough resources to survive for 12 months or more, then you're not miskeen. You're not miskeen. Now, to your example, if you're a multimillionaire or you're making six-figure income and you're just wasting it all on unnecessary things, or maybe you're not wasting it, maybe you're just, spending everything you make, right? And buying all these, yachts and going on all these vacations and, 50 pairs of shoes in your closet, things like that. Then yeah, that's a problem, right? That's a problem, but you're not miskeen, right? If you're just spending your money on hyper consumption, and that's what's called israf. That's extravagance, and Allah is very clearly in the Quran. Allah says He doesn't love those that are extravagant. Right? So, I hope that answers. Yeah, Allah bless you. Thank you for the question. Thank you. Jazakumullah khairan. Ameen. Please pray for everyone. Yes. Question, sent in private. I have 4 siblings, alhamdulillah. 1 sibling is a practicing Muslim, prays, fasts, reads the Quran. 3 siblings haven't fasted for well over 10 years. May Allah make them among those who fast with faith and self-auditing. As far as I know, they don't pray either. They are all in their mid to late 30s. If I attempt to speak to them once a year about maybe praying or fasting, they don't want to hear it. Over the last couple years, I don't even bring it up once a year. This obviously brings me sadness for them. Yeah. Any advice? I'm thinking of not wishing them Eid Mubarak. When they wish me Eid Mubarak, I would say thank you and wish them a nice Memorial Day weekend. So yeah, I mean, I know that's really hard, to have family members who don't, observe Islam and who are actually deprived of all the blessings and the benefits, right? And the blessings of fasting are not just religious, as you all know. How many of you you feel better, right? You've been fasting, I remember when I first fasted Ramadan in college, when I was in Morehouse College in Atlanta, I felt so great. Of course I was, I was 18 years old, right? I was, I was a lot younger. I loved it. I didn't want to stop. Me and my friend, Knut LaRocca from Nicaragua, right? Also known as Abdul Hakim. We just wanted to keep fasting Ramadan. We were like, man, I feel amazing, right? Fasting is it's just great. It purifies you. And even now, a lot of, scientists and, doctors are encouraging people to do intermittent fasting, right? So yeah, I there's so many benefits to fasting: physical, financial, spiritual, communal, right? Just pray for them, set a good example. And my advice to you is if they say Eid Mubarak to you, you should respond. Eid Kareem or Eid Mubarak. If you think you're initiating Eid Mubarak, the holiday greetings will cause them uh, discomfort, then don't bring it up. I mean, saying Eid Mubarak, first of all, it's not an obligation. That's number one. Number two, Eid Mubarak, saying Eid Mubarak is actually not from the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not a Sunnah. There's no authentic narration or even a weak one, to my knowledge, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said Eid Mubarak to people. Right? It's something that Muslims have, it's part of our culture. Right? It's part of Muslim culture. Saying Eid Mubarak is not Sunnah. Okay, it's not Sunnah. But it's it's something that's acceptable. It's permissible to do, and the fact that it makes people happy even makes it something that's meritorious. Because one of the things that a believer is known for is bringing cheer and happiness to others. So if if you're saying Eid Mubarak doesn't bring them cheer, then just hold off, right? Wish them happy Memorial Day weekend, or whatever they is appropriate. If they say it to you though, then I encourage you to respond with the similar greeting, Eid Mubarak, Eid Kareem, and don't nag them about prayer or fasting. Don't make them feel guilty. Let them see the transformation in you. And I'm not implying that you have not transformed. And it's because you haven't transformed that they're not praying or fasting. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying just, focus on yourself, and inshallah, them seeing the transformation in you and maybe others will be inspiration. Prophet Noah, peace be upon him, his own son, his own wife, they didn't follow him, right? He was an absolutely transformed human being. Prophet Lot, peace be upon him, and Prophet Noah and Prophet Muhammad, God bless them and grant them peace. Prophet Lot's wife, she didn't follow him. She wasn't a believer, even though she was married to a prophet. And so yeah, it makes you sad. Just pray for them to be a good example, and give them time. Hopefully they'll come around. But even if they have, Sheikh Muhammad Aslam, he's a really amazing scholar based in the UK. He showed a picture on his Facebook page of a person holding a mustard seed. Actually, a few mustard seeds. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen a mustard seed or held a mustard seed. They're really small. They're like, basil seeds. They're just tiny. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever has a mustard seed of faith, this like a speck of faith will receive salvation. So if your brother, even if your brothers and sisters don't pray or don't fast, if there's just a speck of faith in their hearts, be hopeful for them. Yeah, be hopeful. So, inshallah. Okay. And our time is almost up. Can we do Eid Salah in congregation at home with family members? Yes, I've answered that. Number of takbirs for first rakats. Do I make the initial takbir to start the prayer followed by 7 more? Or does the first takbir count as one of the 7 takbirs? Either of those is fine, right? Either of those are acceptable. And again, I'm not saying that to confuse anyone. It's just, that's how it is. If you just want to say 7 takbirs like I just did, that is the position of some of our schools of law. And others say you do 1 takbir plus 7, which makes it 8 in total. Either of those is fine. Same for the second rak'ah and the 5 takbirs. Is it 1 takbir to start the rak'ah followed by 5 more? So yes, for the second rak'ah, you make the takbir of rising, and then when you're standing completely straight, you make another 5 takbirs. The Eid event is only a drive. Yes, that's correct. The mosque will be locked. You can get out of the car. You can just wave and say salam. You can't get out of the car. You can just wave and say salams from your car. We will distribute some sweets and put in your trunk, right? It's kind of like Muslim trunk or treat, right? You know, that some of the churches do on Halloween. You know, instead of trick or treat, you do trunk or treat. Bring candy and put it in the trunk of your car. That we're gonna put it in your car, which is even better, right? Than trunk or treat. Khadija Rahim writes, our family loves music, especially jazz, and my children love hip hop. Can you reference that hadith again or any other hadith that confirms that music is permissible? You don't have to go into detail because I know this can become contentious, but point me in the right direction and I'll do the research. Shukran. Okay. So, you know, music is, first of all, I want to say this. Music is all around us. The birds sing, right? The wind, you know, I mean, music is all around you, you know, in nature. And music is inside of you. I mean, really, music is inside of you. And sometimes, and I think Allah knows best, well, one of the wisdoms why listening to music is usually, you find it discouraged in a lot of religions, especially the more conservative elements in religion, is number one, music has a very powerful impact on human beings. It can change your emotions. It can bring back memories that are just in your subconscious. How many people have a soundtrack for every moment in their lives, right? Music can also be used to manipulate and influence and control people, as marketing firms and advertising agencies do every day to us. You know, when you walk into a store or when you watch a commercial. So music is really powerful, and they've studied this. There's certain, you know, rhythms, and there's certain cadences and harmonies and melodies, you know, that people, you know, they know exactly what buttons to push to get you to do what they want you to do. I'm talking about governments as well as corporations. And so this is one of the reasons why music is discouraged. Another reason, though, brothers and sisters, is there's music inside of you, but you can't hear it if you're always listening to music outside of you. There's music in your heart. There's a song that only you have been given. And I know I might be sounding a little kind of, I don't know, new agey, right? But this is very real. There's a song inside each and every one of us, and each of us has been given a unique song. And you can only listen to it once you become quiet and still. And if you read the companions, like the companions would compose poetry. Like you talked about your children liking hip hop. The companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would freestyle, right? Impromptu, extemporaneous compositions, hundreds of bars, as they say in hip hop, hundreds of bars, perfect meter, perfect rhyme in Arabic from their hearts. You can do that too. But you have to kind of quiet. You have to quiet. Be quiet. I would, without going into a lot of detail, I would refer you to and if Raza is still online, if you're still there, I'm not looking at the grid because I'm speaker view. If you can post, or if anyone else, if there's an article by Dasham, by my friend who lives here in New Jersey, Dasham Brookins. He's a writer, he's a Muslim writer and a poet, published poet. And he wrote a really amazing article many, many years ago that he wrote in consultation with Sheikh Abdullah Adhami, may Allah preserve him, who's a great scholar of hadith, who is an Arab American, from Syria, who grew up in New Jersey, I think, as well, right? Sheikh Abdullah Adhami. Many of you are familiar with him from New Jersey. It's called Wind string and wind instruments, music, string, wind instruments, and fear of a black planet, something like that. And for you hip hop heads, you know what that's referring to. The Black Planet is referring to that album by Public Enemy. That's a classic from the 90s. Yeah, I used to be a hip hop head, right? And so look at that article, Sister Khadija. It goes into detail into all these hadith. And I encourage anyone who's wondering about whether music is halal or haram, whether it's prohibited or permissible, read that article. It will set the record straight. There are lots of books out there. I've read them, seen them, many of them, lots of fatwas saying all kinds of stuff. But I will say this, all music is not permissible. Okay. And then I will also say all music is not forbidden. It's in the middle, right? And I encourage you all to reach a position on this issue that's moderate, that's balanced. And that article will help you get it. Did anyone post it yet? No? Okay. Let me post it. Let me look for it, bro. Okay, there. Okay, great. Thank you, AM. That's the article. Could you also post the title of the article for those who are calling in, who can't see the chat? Can you post the title, please, AM? Thank you. Yeah, read that article. There's an abridged version of the article, and there's a longer version, PDF. Okay, good. So it's the music. The article is called "Music and Islam: Wind, Strings, and Fear of a Black Planet." Right. And so again, Fear of a Black Planet was those of you who are familiar with rap music and hip hop. That was the joint back in the day, right? You know, that was an incredible. I don't know if they won a Grammy for it, but Public Enemy, which is a hip hop, you know, one of the during the golden age. That album was incredible, and it still is incredible. It's a classic. So that's what he's referring to. And why is he referring to that? Because you have a lot of Muslims who think that only American music is haram. But when they go to Egypt, or when they go to Palestine or Jordan or Bangladesh or India and Pakistan, they listen to all kinds of music, right? They do the Debke dance, and, you know, they watch Bollywood movies with all kinds of music, and, you know, Qawwali, and that's okay. Somehow that's halal. But when you come to America, jazz and hip hop are haram. That's not consistent. There's some cognitive dissonance going on there. That's a double standard. So what makes music halal or haram has nothing to do with whether the person who's singing it is Muslim or not. It has nothing to do with whether it's a nasheed or not. It has nothing to do with whether it's a religious or culturally Muslim piece of art. What makes music halal or haram has to do with certain instruments. There are certain instruments that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ prohibited, right? And if those instruments are not being used, then it's okay, right? And then some scholars even say those hadith about those instruments need to be understood in their context, right? The article goes into that. It has to do with the lyrics, right? Are the lyrics of the song calling to what's haram, or are they calling people to do what's halal and tayyib? If a musician is singing about what's halal and tayyib, right, and they're using instruments that are halal, and it's being performed or played in a place that's halal, like not a club or a night, you know, a bar or a nightclub, or, you know, then it's permissible. And as long as, let me add another thing that our scholars say, as long as listening to the music is not preventing you from fulfilling your duties to Allah or your duties to your fellow creatures. So if you're listening to music and you're missing prayer, the music then becomes haram to listen to, even if it's about content and it's performed with instruments that are permissible. The fact that it's causing you to miss an obligatory act of worship makes your listening to it haram. And that goes for, movies and TV shows. I take my children to the movies sometimes, and if a prayer comes in, we leave. We leave and we go pray, or we make sure we go to the movie at a time when it doesn't conflict with the prayer times. But don't, brothers and sisters, don't go watch a movie, right? And Asr goes in and out, and by the time you come out of the movie theater, it's Maghrib, and you miss Asr. We're like, no, make sure you have the right priorities. So if you're going to want to go watch a movie, the best time is before Dhuhr, right? Or after Isha, for example, after Maghrib. Like, don't miss your prayers because of movies. Because you're binge watching something on Netflix. But hopefully Ramadan has, healed us of our binge cravings for shows. Let's see. Okay, what we got? Okay, great. Thank you. Brother Desham, mother recently passed away due to COVID. Yes, you're right. Yeah, I saw that online. Yeah, subhanAllah. And like so many people who passed away from COVID-19, it's just not the kind of death you pass away alone, completely alone. Your loved ones aren't even allowed to be next to your bedside. It's just, subhanAllah. Okay, so pray for her. Let's make dua for her. May Allah Ta'ala treat her and give her the best of that which He died, of that which He gives to those who die in her state. May Allah Ta'ala grant her from His grace and from His mercy. And that's a prayer that I learned from one of my teachers, Sheikh Aninawi, for those people who pass away, who we're not certain if they were Muslim or not. As far as I know, she was not Muslim, but there is a narration from the Prophet ﷺ that you can pray to people with the words, "Oh Allah, give them the best of what you give to those who die in their state." Because even if they died outwardly a non-Muslim, you don't know, and I don't know what was in their heart at the moment of death. It does happen that at the moment of death, right before death, Allah blesses a person with iman, with faith in Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. Right? And we pray that we all have faith at the time of death, that Allah fill our hearts with iman, not a speck, but just completely overwhelm our hearts and flood our hearts with faith in Him and the last day and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Quran at the time of death. So that's a prayer. So some of you I know have relatives who are Hindu, relatives that are Christian, relatives that are Jewish, relatives that are Sikh. That's a prayer you can make for them. That's from the Sunnah. Oh Allah, give to them the very best of what you give to those who die in their state. That way, if they did die with faith, you've prayed for them to have the best. And if they didn't die with faith, or if they died in a state of disobedience, you're asking Allah to choose, to give the best of whatever He gives to people who you're still praying for them in that sense, that they receive the best of those who die in that state. And there's a message here, a private message. Controversy is over some musical instruments, not music, except that improper wording is inappropriate or forbidden. I will have to disagree, my dear brother. I'm assuming that's a brother. There are many books that I have them in my library at home. Many fatwa from certain scholars and certain Islamic preachers telling Muslims that all music is haram, that all music is forbidden. And that's unfortunate that those are out there, right? But it is out there. It is out there. It's online. There are books about their YouTube videos and whatnot. So you do have a spectrum right? It's always important for us to be intellectually honest when answering questions like these. There is a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum are Muslim scholars that say all music is haram. All musical instruments are haram, except for the frame drum, the duff, which is an instrument they had in 7th century Arabia. And those scholars that are at the most conservative end of the spectrum say even the duff, it's only allowed religiously to play that in war, right? The drums of war, right? Or at weddings, right? Or at Eid. That's it. Otherwise, it's haram. And then on the other end of the spectrum are scholars who say, no, all musical instruments are permissible. All. As in music and singing is permissible as long as the instruments and the singing, the lyrics are not promoting anything forbidden by God. And they're not being performed or played in a place where God is being disobeyed. For example, a nightclub where people are drinking alcohol and there's lewd dancing, or at a bar. So those scholars still have a few conditions, like the ones I just mentioned, but they're at the other end of the spectrum. And in the middle, there are scholars who have a more moderate view that, there are certain instruments that are permissible and certain that are not permissible. There's certain genres of music that are. So my sister Khadija, I'll say, jazz music is, I don't know about a lot of the neo jazz, but the old time, like classical jazz music, that music is beautiful. That music is uplifting. That music, it elevates, the heart and the mind, And I know a lot of Muslims who listen to jazz music. I know a lot of jazz musicians who were Muslim. That's something that, I don't know if there's a book about it yet, but a lot of research has been done about all the jazz musicians, particularly African-American jazz musicians, who were Muslim, like Pharoah Sanders, like Art Blakey, like John Coltrane, right? Love Supreme. I've heard from many credible sources who know his wife. I think her name is Aisha. Her Muslim name is Aisha. That song actually was supposed to be called Allah Supreme. And if you listen to it, it's like he's, in his horn, it's like he's saying Allah Supreme, right? So jazz music is beautiful. Again, I can't attest for like the neo jazz, I'm not sure where they're going with that. So hip hop, again, just to kind of, hip hop is problematic. There's some hip hop that's good, that's conscious, right? And also musical instruments, brothers and sisters, there are some scholars that say if the musical instruments are digital and not actual wind or string instruments, for example, then it's permissible. And a lot of the music we have today is digitized. The musician's not actually playing an instrument. And so those scholars say what's prohibited is the actual instrument, not the sound, the digitized sound. So there are some scholars that say that, and a lot of hip hop has that kind of digitized soundtrack. So with hip hop music, you have to be very careful. Some of it is good, some of it's positive. A lot of it has profanity and vulgar speech, which is not good for your soul. A lot of it is very materialistic, so you have to be discerning. I am not saying all hip hop is good, right? So you have to be discerning, and again, read the article, and that will give you some very clear guidelines about what hip hop is halal to listen to and what hip hop is not halal. There's some really good Muslim hip hop artists that I encourage you to listen to. Shahid Tawheed, he's a good friend of mine. You can look him up. Brother Ali, right? Brother Ali especially his latest album. Some of his earlier albums, he has a lot of profanity on them, always very conscious, and he's just a gifted artist. But his latest album, I think he came out with it a year or two ago. He's just amazing. Like, and he started studying with the Sheikh from Gambia, Sheikh Mohammed Haidara Jilani, who's really influenced him. And so his music is really transformed. Brother Ali is, and he's world renowned. He's respected. So some Muslim artists are just known in the Muslim community, but he's respected by everybody, you know. And he's dope, right? As they say in the hip hop world, right? There's also Jurassic 5, right? Jurassic 5 is another Muslim hip hop group. Most of their members are Muslim, maybe all of them, but I know, you know, I know some of their members personally. There's Lupe Fiasco. Again, some of his songs are, I would say, halal, and some are not so halal. You have to be discerning. But Lupe Fiasco, his father was well known in the Muslim community of Chicago. You know, he's a practicing Muslim. So there are lots of Muslims who do hip hop. I'm not saying you can only listen to Muslim hip hop artists. Again, be discerning, inshallah. Native Deen, right? Native Deen, they're really good. Dean Squad, you know, Jay Dean from Dean Squad, and Kizzy is his name is, right? They're just amazing, right? They do, you know, so Dean Squad, they have a lot of great Islamic hip hop as well. Can you please repeat the Arabic for what we can say for our non-Muslim loved ones who pass away? I don't remember the exact Arabic, and I didn't say the Arabic. But the English, again, is, oh Allah, give to them the best of what you give those who die in their state, inshallah. And I don't remember the actual Arabic wording of the dua. The private message, I recently saw a short lecture by a sheikh saying that Salatul Tasbih is an innovation because the companions of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not pray Salatul Tasbih. Is there an authenticated hadith regarding this voluntary salah? Absolutely. Yeah, just, you know, so there's sound ahadith that meet the level of at least Hasan, if not Sahih li ghayrihi, right? Authenticated by proxy, so to speak, by virtue of another hadith of Salatul Tasbih. And it's related on the authority of Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And I can share with you right now. Salatul Tasbih, and I do know that there are some scholars, usually they're scholars from the Hanbali and Salafi school who practice that methodology, acknowledge that there are narrations, but who are skeptical of the narrations. And so they discourage and frown upon people praying Salatul Tasbih, but don't let that discourage you. It's an incredible prayer. And I'm just getting the link for you right now. I'll share it with you in a moment. And then I think that's it, brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For some reason, here at the mosque, where I'm visiting, my internet connection went out. I hope you can all still see me. Can you all still see me and hear me? Just thumbs up? Okay, good. Okay, so I just called on my phone. Okay, so for some reason, the internet connection was unstable, but I'm just going to share the link on Salatul Tasbih through my phone, inshallah, just to, clarify that it is a prayer that's based on sound narrations and that Muslims have been doing for centuries. This is what I don't understand about our brothers and sisters that are Salafi. This is something that's been practiced for many, many years, centuries actually. Here we go. And by Muslims in every part of the world. And of course, that's not a, okay, I'm back. Okay, it looks like I'm back. Okay, I'm gonna leave. Oh, okay, so I hope that solved the problem with the feedback. Okay, so I'm gonna share this with you. I'm gonna share this with you now. This is strange. Okay, I'm on here twice. Okay. All right. Let me close this. All right. And here we go. I'm going to share the link with you, my sister. And Bismillah. Okay, here we go. So I'm sitting in the chat. All right. So this is an article from Seeker's Guidance, which is a well-respected Muslim scholarly resource. And I'll just read this very quickly. The prayer of glorification, Salatul Tasbih, is a recommended prayer that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged performing as often as one can. It consists of 4 rakats and 300 tasbih of glorification of God, 75 in each rakat. And then it goes on to explain it, the method of offering it. This is the description related by Imam Tirmidhi in his Sunnah from Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak. It is related that the Prophet ﷺ said to his uncle Al-Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, encouraging him to perform this prayer. If you perform this, Allah will forgive you your sins, first and last, old and new, accidental and deliberate, minor and major, hidden and manifest. If you can perform this prayer daily, do so. If you can perform this prayer daily, do so. If not, then weekly. If not, then monthly. If not, then each year. If not, then at least once in your lifetime. It's related by Tirmidhi and other scholars of hadith. Most hadith masters, not all, but most hadith masters accepted this as a sound hadith. And the jurists, the fuqaha, consider it a recommended sunnah. Imam al-Nawawi mentions it, that it's a recommended sunnah. And Ibn Abidin, the great Hanafi Imam, the great Hanafi scholar, he quotes one of the great scholars is saying, no one hears of its great reward and then leaves it except someone lacking religious concern. And that's Rad al-Mukhtar. So, you know, again, the only scholars that I've ever heard doubt the Salatul Tasbih are Salafi scholars, right? Salafi and Hanbali, some of the Hanbali scholars. But yeah, rest assured, it's absolutely fine. And I think that's it. Are there any more questions? My computer